So I was always most drawn to sciences at school, and then I knew I wanted to go to university because it just sounded so exciting. I knew I was more drawn to biology, so I actually spoke with my biology teacher, and she said, which part of the biology that you're studying do you like? And I said, oh, it's that bit about, how the body works that we do. I really like that. So she said, oh, you want to be a physiologist. And so then in those days, we had this really thick compendium of universities and the courses they did in the United Kingdom. And yes, looked at physiology. And as I said earlier, I went to University College London. I just loved the way it said University College was the first one to not just admit women to study their undergraduate courses there, but to allow them to graduate. And yes, my family had, so it was what we would call a classical working class background, but one where there was aspirations. My mother and father both recognised the importance of education, and they didn't think that being a female should hold me back in any way. And indeed, my mother, who'd been thwarted in musical ambitions and wanted to study music, but had to leave school at 14 or 15, I think it was only 14, to start earning some money to bring it into the family. And she sorely remembered that throughout her life, and she did not want me to have to suffer that as well. So I guess, she was another role model there. So I also wanted to acknowledge the influences of other people on my career. And one of the first people I would credit is Ole Peterson, who's very well known to the Academy and the Cardiff Hub. And that's because he gave me my first permanent job. And nothing is more heavenly than not being on that treadmill of postdocs and fellowships to get your first job. And he was a great head of department because he wanted you to succeed, to just get on with it. It didn't matter who you were, where you'd come from, whatever. Gender wasn't a factor, just, gave you the opportunities. I was itching to have a go at having my own lab and all of that. I think the other influence that has helped is my partner of 40 years. And if you're not working in harmony with someone else who's very important in your life and who doesn't get it, that's really stressful. So obviously we can't have a tick list when we're choosing life partners and that, but to get somebody who feels they understand or will listen is clearly important. And finally, the talented PhD students and postdocs who've been in my lab, they're the ones generating the data mostly. As you rise up the academic career path, you're less and less in the lab. So if it wasn't for those fabulous people getting the data, my career would not have flourished. So thank you to all of them as well. But I've always felt passionate about equality and openness of opportunities and transparency. So for me, it would be that now I think women and men are more able to speak up about needs of looking after family, be that children or be that elderly relatives. I mean, back in the day, I can still remember meetings that would be held, day after day in half term and that, and just the difficulties of organising childcare, or sitting at the meeting and trying to edge closer and closer to the door as it got, you're looking at your watch, oh, the nursery's going to, put them tied to the railings at this rate, and not feeling able to easily say, oh, come on, this meeting was due to finish at 4 o'clock. I have to go now. I've got to collect my children. I hope now that it's much easier for those with such responsibilities to speak up. So I think the landscape has changed very much and in a positive direction now, Julie. So believe it or not, to myself, I would say, Susan, you should have been less afraid. You should have been feeling that fear and doing it anyway, and speaking up. I still remember going to some meetings and thinking it was a success if I just managed to sort of sit through it and wasn't put on the spot about anything and could get out the door. You know, actually, you're on those committees to say things and to contribute. That's why you've been chosen. But it took a while for that penny to drop for me. There are more women, more networks, more resources. So use them. They won't all be for you, but find what works. Join a network, a society, an organisation, or something that's focused on issues that you're having. Take a breath and realise that science is fun, it's interesting, and it might drive us mad, but it also captivates us. And don't forget that. But not to get the balance wrong, you know, just deep breath and remember, actually, there's loads about the opportunities that the academic life in STEM presents you with. So try and just remember that. I think, you know, we really have to start so early. The studies that show, you know, even at the age of 5 or 6, girls start thinking that they won't be as good at maths, or they won't be able to tinker with bits of equipment, whether it's their bicycles or whatever. So if we're really to go at this full pelt, it has to be starting young in the schools, having appropriate role models. But where is the science role models that we can point them to say, you can be a scientist too, if you have a way of knowing what they might be interested in? You give that a little bit more thought, rather than going in and saying, oh, science is great, I've done really well at science and it's fun. You need to engage them. And that's a hard ask, actually, of many people, because we're not necessarily successful in science because we have those skills, and perhaps professional help through universities, who of course want to recruit the very best into their STEM subject, getting good career advice into schools as well, so that they don't think that science has to be all about solving equations or getting greasy with bicycle chains or whatever. That's part of it. That's great fun, actually. But there's also a whole other area of science careers that don't involve that as well. So good career advice for all young people, of course, so that they're round pegs in round holes. Yes.